Hello, Guthrie Prentice the Practitioner here. Over the last day or two, you may have seen news reels on, news clips on CTV News and other channels about various special consultations with citizens and constituents that were being held by various NDP MPs and the like, trying to get proper consultation on Bill C-23, the Fair Elections Act of Canada, that is currently being debated in the House of Commons as we speak. The way that CTV, the clip you are about to see is a summarized clip of a full hour clip, whose link I will post in the description, of discussion dialogue between the NDP and the constituents of Victoria, British Columbia, and Esquimalt concerning Bill C-23. The summary you are about to see is probably going to take about 5 minutes or so. Here's the odd bit. When CTV in Victoria, British Columbia came and actually came to this event, they recorded 2 sections of maybe about 2 minutes long each, tops, and then walked out after 4 minutes of the meeting. They did not record the entire. They did not record the entire lecture, and they will no doubt use the snippets to twist it to their particular agenda. Something probably along the lines of the left stream don't know what they're talking about, or if they're pro-left stream, something about like rah rah, look at the left. The point is, though, is that this is a biased way of reporting. I'm going to try to give a much more clear summary of what was done in the video, and I'm also posting the entire unedited footage. My hope is that you will be able to give me feedback about how to be a more credible and critical summarist and reporter pertaining political events in Canada. Here's the difference, though. Unlike mainstream media, I will actually present my full unedited footage in order to get this feedback, in order to make sure that I am somewhat credible. So, if mainstream media, if you're watching this, and you claim that you actually are presenting an unbiased view of these events, then I ask you to present the entire unaltered footage of the entire meeting that you were recording in this case. The recording being the panel on Bill C-23 in Victoria, British Columbia on March 13th, 2014.
Since I have to read my notes, I'm afraid I have to sit. And since I'm getting older, I have to have these glasses on. And anyway, about 10 years ago, I was, like most people, unhappy with our political system. And I had the opportunity, back in 2004, to be a member of the BC Citizens Assembly on Electoral Reform. So I learned a lot about voting systems there, and I got involved with the various referenda that we had. I also joined Fair Vote Canada in 2005. I was on the National Council for 6 years. Fair Vote Canada, we may have a disagreement about nonpartisan versus multipartisan, but that's a philosophical one sometimes. Fair Vote Canada is a grassroots, multipartisan citizens campaign for voting system reform. We promote the introduction of an element of proportional representation into elections for all levels of government and throughout civil society. Proportional representation, in case you're not familiar with it, is any voting system designed to produce a representative body like a parliament, a legislature, or a municipal council, where voters elect representatives in proportion to how we vote. This isn't how our current system works. Our current system gives us very erratic outcomes, and I think the voting system is very unfair. We rarely get the parliament or government that we vote for. When we vote, we're actually voting in a parliament, not a government. Very few of us actually get to vote for whoever it is becomes the prime minister. We are an election. Seems like one election, but actually it's, in 2015, it's going to be 338 elections, because each riding is a separate election, and each riding elects one person to go to Parliament. And unfortunately, usually only about half the voters get to elect that person. The other half look at Parliament and can't see somebody to help elect. This is one reason why I'm pretty committed to changing to a proportional voting system. I also think that majority governments are a real problem. Only 2 of the last 12 majority governments received more than half the popular vote, while 2 received less than 40%. And you'll be interested to know that the 2 that received less than 40%, one is the current government, and the other one is that of Jean Chrétien's in 1997. So when I heard about the Fair Elections Act, I kind of thought, well, wouldn't it be great if they were actually going to change to a fair voting system? Well, of course, you know, I didn't really believe that, but I could hope. So what we've discovered, of course, is not only are they ignoring the voting system that I consider to be unfair, but they're actually setting us backwards in many important ways. I believe this country has moved slowly over the years towards an effective but impartial voting system where we can all feel comfortable that our votes are properly heard and respected, and that all of us who want to vote have the chance to do so. So, of the many issues with this act, and there are many, probably the most important one is the lack of consultation with opposition parties, Elections Canada, and citizens. After all, both the government and the opposition within Parliament are supposed to work together for the good of the country. That's why the opposition is called the loyal opposition. The opposition is supposed to be working with the government to improve policy and to help point out where improvements are possible. Now, Fair Vote Canada released a press release on the 11th of February, which I believe is pretty soon after the act came out, and they say some things pretty good here, so I thought I would just read it to you. Fair Vote Canada urges the federal government not to push through significant changes to Elections Canada without building consensus with other political parties. We're saying hands off Elections Canada, says Doug Bailey, the president of Fair Vote Canada. Officers responsible to Parliament, such as the Chief Electoral Officer, should not have their powers and responsibilities significantly changed, as the Fair Election Act does, without a reasonable level of consensus in Parliament. The government's current attempt to interfere with Elections Canada without opposition support and without consulting the Chief Electoral Officer is more proof of why Canada needs a proportional voting system. Proportional systems require politicians to build a consensus before change can happen and to respect the will of all voters. Fair Vote Canada finds several aspects of this bill objectionable. In particular, the limits the bill would place on the ability of the Chief Electoral Officer to promote voter participation should be deleted. Fair Vote Canada urges the government to allow Bill C-23 to be debated thoroughly and to consider amendments that will lead to broad support for the bill, says Kelly Carmichael, our Executive Director. As the bill goes to the heart of the democratic system, broad public consultation is essential. This is not the first time we've seen this high-handed behavior. We've seen it from previous federal governments as well. This isn't a conservative problem or a liberal problem. It's a systemic problem, and it won't improve until we change the voting system. Now, a lot of people do take our democratic system very seriously, and some of them are also on the right hand of the political spectrum. So I'd like to quote a little something from Preston Manning, which is, I got from Aaron Mary of McLean's. He apparently gave a speech, and in his speech he said, he recommended the government amend the Fair Elections Act, Bill C-23, currently before the House, hopefully with all party consent, to strengthen and expand rather than weaken the role of Elections Canada. So people of all political spectrums are concerned about our democracy, and rightly so. So I'd like to just close at this point by saying that the implementation of the Fair Elections Act as it stands is a major step backwards in improving and strengthening an impartial electoral system. We must urge our government to seriously reconsider this act and not to reconsider this act and to listen to others. I guess I don't know what I said here. We would like them to listen to us and consider our recommended changes to this act. So sorry about that. But anyway, that's what I have to say at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Just once again, I just am so gratified by the turnout this evening, and the quality of the discussion is just extraordinary. I really want to thank everyone for caring so much about Canada and our democracy. I really mean that. I'm just going to talk about next steps, I think, by way of summary, but I just want to say two things. This is a voter suppression act. It should be called that. It's designed to have people not vote. It's exactly what the Republicans have done so effectively in the United States. Secondly, that it's Orwellian to call this a Fair Elections Act. the big lie that they're taking money, big money out of it, according to the minister, is so patently wrong when they raise the amount of money that candidates can contribute, raise the election limit from 1,200 to 1,500, and do all sorts of things that I think Dan summarized very well to really make sure that big money plays a significant part in our elections. I haven't lost faith in the young people at all, and I really believe that this is for them that we should fight back against this bill. They haven't voted a lot, by way of statistics, as much as older people, and maybe they have a good reason. We have to give them a reason to vote. We have to give them a reason to believe in the democracy, and taking real serious action against the Unfair Elections Act is a very good place to start. Thanks so much for coming.